At the Potter Prize today, I have with me the India head as well as a partner for Roland Berger. And sir, I have to begin by asking you about the India growth story that Narendra Modi is selling wherever he goes. He was speaking about it in New York yesterday. He's talking about India attaining a double-digit growth path. But in your years in India, your company has been here since 2012. Do you think it's a path that is attainable?
No, I think if we look at India as an economy, we've been very resilient. We've grown at a minimum of 5% over the last 35 years in every sort of 5-6 year interval that you can look at. And that clearly shows that there's a lot of drive, motivation and opportunity in India. If this is channeled and supported by the right policies and the right intent and execution on the ground, then I think definitely 8, 9 and 10% will be possible. I think it's also necessary because we have to drive employment generation in the country, and it does require the marketing piece as well as the implementation on the ground to make this happen.
Thanks. I'm glad you mentioned the marketing piece as well as the implementation. Do you see kind of a risk coming in from the opposition which is not allowing the parliament to function, so therefore important reforms are not even going through?
No, I think if you look at India and Germany as a in a comparison, what you see in Germany is in difficult times, opposition and government get together and they de facto run the country together. I think we haven't seen that in the UPA too. We're not seeing it now. And I think it is not the right thing for the country. So I would definitely want that to change. Absolutely. But that's beyond my realm of influence.
But that's a bit of advice from you to the Prime Minister's office as well as to his...
I would not be so keen or so, courageous to provide advice, but I do think that this is something that India needs to work on. It's the same as in the United States. Polarization doesn't really help the country forward.
My next question to you, sir. Narendra Modi is talking about Make in India. It has to be the manufacturing growth which has to propel any country on a very high growth path, like we saw in China. But India has really banked on the growth in its service sector. Do you think Make in China, yes, it perhaps might be an excellent piece of policy, but the implementation on the ground is matching it?
No, I think if we look at Make in India, it's the right thing to focus on, the right thing to drive, because services is great. But you also need a strong manufacturing sector that drives employment across the the kind of capability spectrum that you have in a country. So from that perspective, it's important. The second fact is that manufacturing drives services as well. It's not only manufacturing, it's also the services around the products that you're producing, selling and developing. So the focus is correct. The focus needs to be again across the value chain. So on the one end, I need to look at leather, I need to look at textiles, I need to look at construction, I need to look at sugar, right? Because all of these industries actually drive a lot of employment in the country, and we have about 12 million per year that need to find some job. So the first responsibility is make sure people have jobs. The second responsibility is then to say, okay, listen, how can we move up the value chain? We've been in that game in the IT sector for a long time, sort of trying to come up with products and all that. Some of that has happened, some innovation has happened as well. How do we now do that in manufacturing? We have a big asset in the sense that there are outstanding companies that are actually driving the perception of India as a manufacturing hub. There's, for example, take Bajaj Auto with half of the volume abroad. If you take a company like Mothers and Sumi, again, a very, very large international footprint, manufacturing footprint where they've been extremely successful. You have a company like Tata driving indigenous defense efforts. You have Bharat Forge, Mahindra, again, looking at the opportunity in defense to build a strong local base. And I personally feel very, very strongly about having some strong local champions in chosen industries that we believe are important for us, that then drive R&D, employment.
And they can be the champion for the government's Make in India program also.
Absolutely, yeah. And also you need those anchor companies because they drive also brand perception of a country.
Absolutely. So my next question to you...
Just one point before... I think we have already some industries where we are good.
Yeah.
The automotive industry is an industry where I think both local and also global companies have seen that there is potential in India in R&D and manufacturing. Pharma is another area. I'm sure that with the right policies, the right focus, we can drive this also in other industries.
My last question to you. You've been in India since 2012. So, are you seeing any change on the ground since Narendra Modi has come to office? And also, which are the sectors that is seeing a palpable change? Because for the longest, infrastructure was stuck, there were stranded projects, power, coal again stuck. So, are you seeing any palpable change, especially in these sectors?
See, I've been in India now since 1994, so I've been seeing the development of the country previously with Mercedes-Benz and now with Roland Berger. There's been a tremendous change in those years. I think that is the first thing that we have to recognize. A lot of positive things have happened and will continue to happen. Now, if we look at the impact of the new government, we have seen some movement in railways, we are seeing some movement in road, we are seeing some movement in wind energy. So there are some sectors where things are beginning to move. And I think the key focus here has to be that government and industry work together as a team, because both have the same interest, and that is prosperity and jobs and growth, and also at the end of the day taxes for the country that can then support investments in infrastructure. And I think that has to be a tight alignment between these two groups. I think foreign direct investment is important, but more important is probably creating the right investment climate for Indian investors, because that potential is significantly larger than what can come out of FDI, if we look at the kind of trajectory that we've taken.
So the right investment climate, and perhaps also a certain kind of predictability in the tax regime, that has to be the big takeaway.
I think predictability and clarity and no retroactive taxations and all those factors are extremely important for companies and individuals. So I think we need clarity and we need simplification, and we need a situation where these kind of facts of life are seen as transparent and fair interactions and transactions rather than a painful procedure to go through.
Thank you so much for talking to us. That was the India head of Roland Berger. Definitely very important takeaways if the Prime Minister's office is listening, that is.